going on, everybody? It's another edition of Bears Over Beers presented by Second City Gridiron and WindyCityGridiron.com. I'm your host tonight, Ryan Droste, joined for the very first time by the other host of this show, Mr. Bryan Orenchuk. Bryan, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is an honor and a privilege. And as I said backstage, I am thirsty. So
yes,
let's get to it.
We're going to get to the beers. Bryan, you know, you've been out there where the first hurricane hit, and we're glad that, you know, everything is going all right for you and your family, and you can finally jump on Bears Over Beers because we have a lot of fun here every Wednesday night, and the show has been missing you. So I'm looking forward to chatting up a little Bears football.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate it. I was supposed to make my debut last week with Kyrie, and obviously it was missing in action last week with the storm and loss of power. So I get my sloppy debut with you. I apologize for any hiccups this first time around, but looking forward to it. Been a fan, obviously, of the show for years, and I think you've done a phenomenal job this year hosting. So yeah, man, excited to chop it up with you.
Well, I got to say, your setup, for those of you watching the YouTube live stream right now, looks phenomenal. So I'm going to give you an A+. So you got the mic set up. You know, you're talking to me kind of off air about getting this all set up for your debut, and A+. Looks great.
Thank you. Yes, some time and effort, maybe more money than my wife would like to admit, has gone into it. But you know how that is. Yeah, man, all about the Bears. So excited to just contribute any way I can.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to contribute with a beer here, my friend. Yeah. So let's hear about what you have for the glass, out of the bottle, out of the can tonight. What do you got, Bryan?
So I've got a couple options. I was hoping maybe we can get some comments to help me out. So I live in Western North Carolina near Asheville. A lot of good breweries out here. The first one I have is an Oktoberfest. Really cool can art, really nice brewery out here called Boojum. Okay. And Oktoberfest, it's obviously fall season. I'm a big sucker for all four seasons, and that kind of directs my beer preference depending on time of year. So if I lived somewhere with only one season, like Florida, where I did live before, shout out to all my Florida peeps watching the show. It's tough to get into, the darker, heavier beers for me year round. And the other one I have to choose from is one of my favorites. It's a Ninja Porter. So it's Asheville Brewing Company's Ninja Porter. Really cool can art again. Both solid beers, solid breweries out here. And I would love some direction on which one to go with. I might do both tonight. We'll see how the show goes. But yeah, I'm excited either way.
That was going to be my first comment as well. Wait a second. You got two beers, so you're going to have to drink both of them tonight, bro.
Yeah, well, I don't have to. They can go back in the fridge if I don't finish them. But yeah, we'll see.
That's a good choice. I like it. I'm personally not a huge Oktoberfest guy, although on my other podcast last week, I did drink an Oktoberfest because I'm like, it just turned to October. I like to get at least one pack of Oktoberfest every year. So that was a solid choice. But
well, I'll do that.
Porter, nice.
I'm convinced. I'm gonna pour that in a frozen mug with a handmade little crocheted Bears little sleeve, and you can tell us what you got going on.
Okay. Well, I felt like this was right on. Well, kind of. It's related to the game this week, and not quite the same country. But as I was digging through my beer fridge, I realized that I had one Guinness left over, and this has to be from last winter or spring because I don't drink Guinness in the summertime. Yeah. This was way at the back. So I mean, it's not England, Ireland, close enough, British Isles, right. And so right. I like a Guinness, and it's starting to get. I'm here in Iowa, and it's just like Chicago, it's starting to get a little colder at night. We're getting down to the low 40s, so I think I can get by with a Guinness. Most of the time on this show, if you guys have been listening, though, I'm definitely a big IPA guy. So this is quite the change to go from a juicy IPA to a dark Guinness stout. And I don't know if you've heard all the episodes, Bryan, but I've been on with Jacob. Jacob's the youngest on this show. He is quite young. He is just getting into good craft beer. I told him I'm gonna have to train him on
Yeah.
what the beers are. And then
Yeah.
Kyrie, my God, the first time I was on the show with Kyrie, he's
It was
like,
like a
"Oh,
mixed drink.
this 11.5% imperial stout that I'm going to sip on."
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. I missed that one. I saw both of them in other episodes. And I remember in fact, I think Jacob had he had a juicy IPA from New Belgium, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it was Voodoo Ranger.
Yeah, Voodoo Ranger. That's good stuff. I love IPAs too. Love hazies. Love juicies. And yeah, had I done the show last week, I might have had one of those. But it's cooled up a good bit here, and the leaves are changing. So, looking forward to enjoying this more full-bodied barley beer. Waiting on you, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. I got I poured the Guinness, so it is. There you go. Look at that shot on the
That looks
camera.
pretty. Cheers.
Virtual cheers here, Brian.
Ding, ding.
So if you guys are joining us live, we like to make the show interactive. So if you're drinking a beer while we talk some Bears football tonight, let us know in the chat room. Of course, you can support Second City Gridiron by subscribing to the channel. If you're watching live right now, please hit the like button. We would really, really appreciate that. That helps us in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're listening on the podcast feed, if you're not already subscribed to Second City Gridiron, please do. We got shows going up almost every single day. Leave the channel a 5-star rating. We would really appreciate that. Even better, you can leave us a written review and tell them how great Bears Over Beers is and how much you enjoy.
Yeah, and if you need to wait till the end of the show to submit your rating, feel free to hang out with us and be a judge for yourself after this episode. This is our first rendition of this flagship Second City program, and we not only share a very similar name, but we're both girl dads, so we're representing in multiple ways tonight, and looking forward to everyone's support.
Yeah, Bryan and I have some real synergy going on. We discovered off air with the girl dad thing, and yeah, it's of course being Bears fans.
Yeah, I didn't even mention my affinity towards professional wrestling growing up. We haven't even talked about that.
No, I didn't know that. I was kind of waiting to break the ice on that, but yeah, I'm obviously a big wrestling fan as well. Right. You guys see the wrestling stuff behind me.
Yeah, no, my figures didn't make it past my childhood, in a preserved fashion like that, but. I had quite the collection myself. I'm not big these days, but classically I was.
A lot of those I rebought, I'll be honest with you, because mine were also destroyed. So they weren't quite in this good a condition. I got into collecting later on, and then also Bears stuff too. As you can see, I got the Bears Funko Pops back there, a few bobbleheads, and Bears and wrestling. That's what I'm about.
Mongo, what's that? Mongo shirt? What is that?
So this is, they were handing these out. I actually went to the season opener against Tennessee, and they handed out like a Mongo kind of towel deal, a tribute to him, and they did the halftime ceremony to him and everything. So added that to my setup. I've got the Gale Sayers plaque back there, and then that football you see, that was signed by Dick Butkus when I was a kid. It's personalized. Nice. So that's my prized possession, I would say, of my Bears collection for sure.
Yeah, nice. I have a shiny license plate. It's in my gym, my home gym, with a Bears license plate signed by the Fridge.
Ooh,
to Bryan. My brother actually got it for me. He met Fridge one day at a work conference, and that's probably my favorite. I've got a Walter Payton figure in the box. Neil Anderson was my guy back in the day. I've got a bunch of his stuff. Mike Singletary was in a box. It's still in the box. Bunch of Jordan stuff too, but my memorabilia connection is not as elite as some out there, including yours. I see that wrestling belt back there too. I don't know if you earned that or just bought that one, but it's pretty cool.
That's from my long distinguished career as a pro wrestler. No, I bought it. I thought, I host the Top Rope Nation wrestling podcast too, and I thought that would look pretty sweet, in the backdrop. And normally I wouldn't spend that kind of money on a wrestling replica belt. I'm not one of those people that will like take it to the show or anything like that. It just sits in this display cabinet. But I got a pack of wrestling cards, and one of them in there was signed by one of the wrestlers, Kenny Omega. and I sold it on eBay for a few $100s, and I
Oh
put that
wow.
towards the belt because I don't really care about autographs that much for wrestlers. I do for Bears players, but wrestlers not really. So I'm like, hey, you could use that to get that title belt. I'll look sweet for the podcast. So that's kind of what I did. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. I dig it.
So let's talk about the Bears win this past weekend over Carolina. I'm sure like you, I went in, we talked about this on the podcast last week, pretty confident that the Bears would get the win. But, there's that little part of you that it's like, all right, the Bears are 2-2. This should be an easy win. They can get on the winning side, have a 3-2 record. It's Carolina. And you're like kind of inevitably waiting for the letdown because we're Bears fans. How many times have
Right.
we been through this? But they came out with a dominant victory, not much drama in that game whatsoever. It was kind of nice, just kind of sit back and enjoy watching the game and not bite my fingernails the whole way through, Bryan.
I mean, the first drive was annoying.
Yeah, they went down
Well,
7-0, but then didn't look back.
right. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. And I mean, like you said, what we've been used to is, losing the games that we should win in addition to losing the games we should lose. So, that was really I think my overwhelming takeaway was we were supposed to win and we did it in convincing fashion. We didn't let them hang around and give them any sliver of hope, which is a thing. We dealt with that last year, having a lot of one-score games, and our opponent this week has already lost by a number of one-score games this year, and we didn't give them that hope. And I think you kind of saw it start to unravel for them. That ended up in some ejections towards the end there, because it had to be a demoralizing loss for them. I mean, they did lose. They were already coming in depleted injury-wise. They lost a few more guys in the game, and but again, in this league, you got to win those games you're supposed to win. And I think we let one slip away with Indy. And, honestly, I think we should have won that one as well. So this was really nice to have that happen. And the way we did it, I think, was really encouraging too. I think we're finally starting to get some rhythm on offense. I'm loving the combination of Roshan and DeAndre in the run game. I'm a big fan of Roshan and what he brings to the table. Tangibly speaking, he's not the most, dominating or impressive back there is, but he just gives extra, and he just provides some juice. Even in the pass game, he kind of reminds me of Montgomery in that way. Like, he's just got some this it factor, and he helps us move the chains. And so I love his demeanor, his nastiness, and then Swift, and the way Waldron has really adapted his calls to the players and their skill sets, and what works for the personnel this year has been encouraging. But again, winning the game we're supposed to win and not giving them hope was my biggest takeaway. Not giving Dalton, any fun reunion opportunities.
That was another thought going in. It's like Andy Dalton back there. Of course, that the Bears would lose to a guy who used to play for him. We've seen this before too, and luckily that didn't happen. And we've been, especially the first couple episodes this season of Bears Over Beers, obviously been pretty tough on Shane Waldron, but he's definitely turned it around. He's not calling perfect games by any means. But we are seeing him utilize the personnel better, as we've said before in the show, getting Cole Kmet more involved.
Yep.
We've seen some different offensive line combinations because of injury, but we've seen those combinations. We've actually seen some good things come from that. The way that he's called the run game the last couple of weeks and actually getting that going. And like you said, you get the, the good downhill running from Roshan Johnson, who runs so hard. He can break tackles. You get Swift in there, the kind of the change of pace, the guy who can really break it open. And there's a lot to be excited about. And then, of course, Caleb. I mean, Caleb every single week has been getting better and better. I think we did have, one pretty good game from Rome, but we're still kind of waiting for a bigger breakout game from Rome. And I think it was today on the website over at Windy City Gridiron, Kyrie, one of our other co-hosts, he had a column up looking at how Rome is just, he's going to break out soon. If you watch the tape, he is burning past guys in man coverage, and he is open, quite often. And I think it's going to happen soon where he's going to have a big game. And I think part of this is just that as we talked about coming into the season, there's so many options on this offense. You know, you have DJ have a pretty good game. Of course, you got Keenan out there. You got Cole Kmet as kind of the safety net who's really reliable. And then you got Rome, you know, on the opposite side. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts on what we've seen from the receivers so far?
You know, I am I'm super excited still. I think, you know, when you factor in Keenan Allen being hurt to start the year and starting to round back into form, and they're starting to, you know, use him on some quick hitters to establish some of that rhythm for Caleb, especially early on. Some of the clips I've seen from Caleb, you know, on the sidelines, his conversations and connection with Keenan seems genuine and real, and and he's not even, you know, scratched the surface of his potential in this offense or this team yet, and he's an all-pro. So, and then like you talked about Rome, I'm with you. I love what Rome brings to the table. If I would have one consistent or at least current qualm with Waldron, it would be not enough manufactured touches in space for Rome. You know, I guess downfield is more my preference. I like it in him, you know, the jet sweeps. That's all good and well. The quick screens, the quick outs, slants, like that's good. I think he's a great athlete. He could take those to the house. But like you said, he's getting open with his route running downfield. Let's take advantage of that. And I think we will. And I think that's what you're going to see with our offense and with our receivers. You know, it's a pick your poison. Mm-hmm. And DJ Moore, you know, he's had a hilariously documented early season, you know, roller coaster with some of his body language, and I mean, even his stats have not been what anyone expected them to be, but they're starting to click, he and Caleb, and that's only going to open up more space for the other guys. You know, I think like you said, Cole's me. I actually was impressed with Everett for the first time this year. You know, I don't know if he is healthier or what, but he actually looked more spry and just better utilized. You know, I'm not a big fan of tight end screens or bubble screens or anything like that, unless you're like a Brock Bowers or a Kittle or and like we've been doing that with Kmet since before Waldron got here, and Everett, who doesn't look to have the juice anymore. And but these guys were getting the balls where they needed to in ways that maximize their potential. So that was exciting. And yeah, so I'm excited about the receivers, to answer your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well said. And then, you know, I hinted at this a second ago, but I think one of my big takeaways going back and rewatching the game film was just, and I mean, I thought it in the moment too, but I mean, our offensive line played really, really well. And again, I know it was the Carolina Panthers, but you know, it's still NFL game reps, regular season game. They're going up against professionals. And man, you know, Tevin was having a really good game before he had the injury. He had 0 hits allowed. He had 0 pressure, 0 sacks allowed. And then Bill Murray, I mean, the most perfectly named Bears lineman of all time.
We need to get him on this show. We need to get Bill Murray on this show. That's what we need to do.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
He comes in and just dominates, dude.
He stepped in. And one of the things too, Bryan, that you know, kind of it goes unnoticed a lot. And Tevin, ironically enough, is noticed for it. And that's his tenacity between the whistle and after the whistle when it comes to protecting his quarterback and players. And I don't know if you saw, but you know, Bill Murray was doing that the whole time he was in, and you know, stepping in right away, protecting his quarterback on that one run where Caleb got outside and kind of got late hit when he was in the air.
Yeah.
Bill Murray was over there in that guy's face. And same with Matt Pryor. I've been excited about Matt Pryor too. You know, he's not been a huge disappointment. And another thing that we're used to as Bears fans is the starters being crappy and the backups being even worse.
Yeah.
And these guys are stepping in, and there's no noticeable drop off. In fact, it kind of looks better. Going back to Waldron too, you know, last week when Tevin went out, I think it was only one play, or maybe a couple, but they moved Pryor over and they put Nate Davis back in at right guard. Well, Nate Davis has not been playing up to his potential, to say it kindly. And so what they do this time, they kept Pryor there and they put Bill Murray there. And these adjustments are working. And so yeah, I'm excited too. But it'd be awesome to get Kyle Long or Bill Murray on this show, because they would be they'd be down for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about the current players, and we could be like, look, you don't have to drink a beer. You don't have to drink a beer live on air. We know you got a game that you're getting ready for, but I mean, certainly Kyle Long would do it.
Yeah.
No, that would be. If there's anyone out there listening right now, you need to hit my DMs at Ryan Droste, Droste. Let us know how we can get Kyle Long on this show, because that would be incredible. I would definitely.
Olin Kreutz would be a fun one. He's around a lot on these airwaves. But and even, shoot, man, we don't have to preclude it to offensive linemen. Jay Cutler, get over here, man. We'll have a beer with you.
There you go. You're not too far away from him over in North Carolina.
Yeah, so. He's in Tennessee.
Yeah. No, I mean, the offensive line and continuing to progress, that was such a concern the first couple of weeks. And man, they've really picked it up the last 2 weeks. And, again, just plugging in some of those new faces, and they have exceeded my expectations. Not that they've been perfect players. Certainly, we've talked about how with Pryor, sometimes the pass blocking is a little iffy, but he's been pretty good in the run blocking. And I thought his pass blocking this last week was definitely a lot better. But I'm just a fan of having a dude that is that size in there. I mean, he is a humongous human being. And when we need our quarterback protected, I want those type of dudes in there. 6'6", 330 pounds or whatever he is. He's been great. Coleman Shelton had a pretty good game. I mean, everyone's seen that clip on social media of him and Caleb identifying the blitz, and that was pretty funny. There was fire. We got fire here, or whatever he said. And I mean, Darnell too, and Braxton, they had good games too. So I mean, great game from the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, again, and you pointed to this earlier, and the competition was what it was. By the way, I just noticed the Guinness glass with the Guinness beer. That's impressive.
You want to know something? This is actually my wife's. So like almost my entire beer glass collection is mine from going to breweries, but there's 1 or 2 in there that my wife actually had before she knew me. And this is one of them. So I can use my wife's beer glass here.
Shout out to the wives worldwide.
Yes.
You make us guys better. But I completely lost track of what I was saying. Got distracted by the beer.
Something on the offensive line. This beer. See, this is what happens.
Yeah. No, you were saying. Case in point, don't drink in pod. No, the quality competition was not great. We know that. But there is something to be said about a unit gaining cohesiveness and time spent on task, which is what they're getting each week. So inevitably, at least you would hope, that they improve each week. And Caleb even mentioned it today in his press conference in London. He said something along the lines of, my guys he said, I'm getting more used to how they block, and they're getting more used to me, and we're getting more on the same page. You're getting squared up or settled up more as we go along, and that's what you'd like to see. This will be a tougher challenge this week. I know we're not getting to Jacksonville quite yet, but I'm not going to share any roses quite yet for a Carolina victory in that fashion. I mean, we were pretty rough against the Texans. And they don't even have the strongest interior defensive line. We struggle with the Colts as well. So I like what I'm seeing, especially with these replacement guys. But we definitely need to, continue this trend. And I think that establishing the run with the rhythm we have with those 2 backs is going to help, because every offensive lineman will tell you he prefers to set the tone run blocking than he does dropping back and passing 50 times. And Lester will tell us that too. But at the end of the day, you have to pass block. So let's see if we can keep it up.
Yeah. And I mean, again, despite the quality of competition, I think there's something to be said for just building confidence in this
Yep.
group, especially those new guys, getting
Yep.
those game reps and having some success.
For sure.
And that'll help them out long term too.
For
So
sure.
we're going to get to the Bears game this week in London with the Jaguars. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bears' history in London in the past as well. They've had 3 games over there in the past. It includes 2 regular season games and 1 preseason game. So a little history lesson for you here in just a minute. But before we get to that, we're going to hear from our sponsors. And we want to start off with a shout out to one of our newest sponsors here on Second City Gridiron. And that's the good folks over at Underdog Fantasy. So it's the greatest time of the year. Again, football is back and it's here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making their picks on Underdog. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats. Look, I've heard Jacob talking about Underdog, I heard Kyrie talking about Underdog. And so I'm like, I got to check this thing out. So I got the Underdog app on my phone. And let me tell you, it is super easy to use. When I am doing picks, I often look at the Bears games because I feel like if I'm going to be doing some player stats picks, that's the team I know the best, and I feel like I have a decent chance of winning if I'm picking player stats for a Chicago Bears game. It was very easy to navigate to the Bears game to find those different stats that I wanted to go with. It's very straightforward. Signing up is even easier. Just head on over to Underdog's simple to use mobile app, as I said, or underdogfantasy.com. You can sign up with the promo code City. Once again, all caps, promo code City, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code City, to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. You must be 18 plus. That includes 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. And you must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, or text next step to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Check them out, Underdog Fantasy. All right, Brian, let's talk about the Chicago Bears in London and their history over there in London. I did some research. As you know, I'm a history guy. And, I knew that they had played there way back in the 80s. I was pretty little. I think I was 2 years old when this game happened. So, no, I do not personally remember it. But the Bears' debut in England came in the American Bowl, August 3rd, 1986. Of course, our Chicago Bears were coming off of the big Super Bowl 20 victory against the New England Patriots. And they played the Dallas Cowboys preseason game, the American Bowl. The Bears won 17-6. There was 86,000 fans in the building for that one. And, then you have to fast forward much later for when the Bears played over there.
Let me guess, because if you said 2, then I remember the Khalil Mack revenge game in I thought it was London against the Raiders.
Yep.
And then before that was Forte shredding up the Bucks.
That's correct. Yeah. So, the other time that you had to fast forward to 2011, and the Bears played at Wembley Stadium. Yeah. So the Bears, their first regular season game in London, they defeated the Tampa Bay Bucks, as you said, 24-18. That game was October 23rd, 2011. Yeah. Forte had 145 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Jay Cutler quarterbacked the Bears, 226 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And we had Roy Williams, 59 yards receiving, 1 touchdown in that one, 24-18, 2011, Wembley Stadium.
And then
the other one,
We lost, right?
Yeah, the other one we lost.
Yeah.
You are right. The Khalil Mack revenge game. Unfortunately, he didn't get his revenge. 2019. Man, I remember watching this one pretty clearly. This one was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is where we were. Sorry, Tottenham Hotspur
Yeah.
Stadium. Got to say that right for our
Well
English
done.
listeners. And man, did the Bears get off to a slow start in that one or what? They were down 17-0 at halftime. But for that game, they traveled to London later in the week. So I was really happy when I heard Eberflus and company were taking the team over on Monday this week so they could adapt to the time change and just get settled in, because I think with Nagy back in 2019 for that game, that was a big error. And along those lines, I think the Jags are traveling there tomorrow, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So they are not learning that lesson.
They are, but London is pretty much the Jaguars' second home, and they fare pretty well in London. So they probably have their own routines set up, which I think cuts them a little slack when it comes to acclimation period. These guys have done that; they've been there, done that. So I don't think that's going to be as much of a factor as people think, because it's the Jaguars. If it were another team, absolutely. But the Jaguars, I think they've played in London more than any other team in the league for the past 5 years or so. So I don't anticipate that being an issue for them. But there are plenty more issues for the Jaguars to be concerned about.
Yes, there are. So let's talk about that game, because this is a chance, for the Bears to move to above 500 in London. So now we're 1-1, beat the Bucks in 2011, lost to the Raiders in 2019. So here we are. We can go 2-1 at least on the regular season. We had that preseason win over the Cowboys way back in '86. But yeah, let's talk about the Jags and what we've seen out of them this season. And I guess just give me your thoughts, Bryan, going into this game. What are the big keys to victory? What have you noticed about Jacksonville? You can kind of take this any direction you want.
Yeah. So, Jaguars have been kind of on the cusp the last couple of years with a young quarterback that obviously has a blue chip pedigree and some new additional pieces. And I mentioned this earlier, the one score games that they've played in and lost this year, they've already had 3 one-score game losses this year. Last year, if you count our 8-point loss to the Pack in the final week of the season, we had 6. That's one thing I remember, vividly from 2023 was how close we were, and we lost those games. I think it was the same year that the Vikings, they won, like 11 one-score games, and that tells you, the team is kind of right there. They're playing with teams. I know they the Jaguars, they lost that game against the Dolphins week 1, and they had that game. They had that game until the end. There was a penalty it was a fumble. ETN fumbled the ball on the goal line. So it would have been 7 points because he was going in the end zone. The Dolphins get the ball, 80-yard touchdown, Tyreek Hill. Game's pretty much over at that point. 14-point swing. And so they've been in games. Now, granted, they've not played the best teams this year, although 4 of those teams were against playoff teams from a year ago. So that says something. But Trevor has struggled, although his numbers are better than Caleb's. You would hope so for them. But he just had a career yardage week last week, 370 plus yards against the Colts. Their O-line has struggled. They also have key injuries. Their top defender and top tackler, Foye Oluokun, I don't know how you pronounce his name correctly, but he's a tackling monster all over the place. He's been hurt. Evan Ingram's been hurt. He was a leading receiver last year. And then Tyson Campbell, who, by the way, when it comes to underdog fantasy, our guy, EJ Snyder, who was once one of the hosts on this show, has made his way over there. He's a big fan of Tyson Campbell. So EJ, if you're watching or listening to this, I know how much of a loss that is for the Jaguars. So they've had some injuries, but they also have some young guys stepping up. I really think this is going to be an interesting week when it comes to rookie receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. has had more opportunities than Arome Odunze, but both of them could have a huge week this week. And how fun would that be for the fans out in London to, get to know these young, explosive, dynamic rookies for the first time, which I think is a real possibility. Now our defense, our DBs are a little bit more sound than that, but we're going to be down Jaquan Brisker this week. And we have Elijah Hicks stepping up, which I have my thoughts about that. I'll share in a little bit, but Brian Thomas Jr. could step up. And then they have Etienne, as I mentioned, and Tank Bigsby, running back. I believe he's from Auburn, second or third year now. And he's had, I think he leads the team in rushing, and he's had 2 really good games in a row. And they're starting to click. And then on defense, they've got a guy named Ventrell Miller who looks, like a diamond in the rough, who's filling in admirably for Oluokun and another tackling machine. Then you have Trevon Walker, the much maligned and criticized pick from the Jaguars, one spot ahead of Aiden Hutchinson. Walker had 3 sacks last week and at least 1 fumble force. He basically won that game for them. Now, granted, it was his only 3 sacks of the year, but he's coming along. You've got Josh Hines Allen on the other side, who is questionable this week, but is likely to play. They've got some talent on the edges. They added Eric Armstead in the offseason. They've got our guy Roy Robertson Harris as well, who I am still a fan of. So they've got a formidable defensive line for us, and I think if they can establish the run with Bigsby and Etienne and stick with it, Hubbard, man, I don't know. I'm low key concerned about our run defense this year.
Same, yeah.
It's scary to me. Week 1 we got over 100 yards against the Titans, let up. Week 2 was the Texans, and Mixon was looking great until he got hurt, and people don't really take that into account. Then it was Dario and Akers that came in and didn't do much. And then you got Jonathan Taylor, who ripped us apart in that game, made us look silly, especially TJ Edwards. And then you have Kyron Williams, another 100 yards. And then last week, Chuba Hubbard, another 100 yards, or right under it, 90-something.
Yeah.
So our run defense is suspect. And if I'm the Jaguars, I am pounding the rock with Etienne and Bigsby. And if they can do that and make us come up in the run and then let Lawrence, make some throws in the play action game, and by the way, it looks like Evan Ingram might be back this week. Get him involved, Kirk involved, Brian Thomas Jr. downfield. They could put up points. This is a game I think is going to be a little bit closer than people might think. The Jags are ready to break out. They got that win off their backs, and now they're going to their second home. This is a big win, big opportunity for them. Now, on the flip side, if we can take care of business like we did last week, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Peterson was fired when he gets back to his office. Honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. My friends and family down there don't think it's going to happen. But I'll tell you, man, in this league, with what we just saw in New York, I wouldn't be surprised if we embarrass the Jaguars in London if Shad Khan doesn't pull the trigger on Peterson already. But I'm stoked, man. I mentioned on WCG in the blog and the Daily Den, shout out to Ken Mitchell. I mentioned how this would be the one game all year I would really like to go to. Jaguars are kind of a hometown team. I lived there for about 7 years, and London have always wanted to go to Europe. This would be a fun one. I know we travel well. I know we've got a lot of fans over there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that game and hearing the crowd throughout. But I don't think it's a gimme game like a lot of people might be thinking at this point based on records.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can look at that one of two ways. On one hand, I hate facing a team that's winless because you kind of feel like they're due to have a win, and then you think it's going to be against you. And then you can look at this, you can say, all right, they got that win, so they don't have that pressure to get the first win. But then also, there's the confidence factor, like we talked about with the Bears O-line earlier. And now, they got that win against Indianapolis. they can look at it as Indianapolis beat Chicago. We just beat them. This is a game that we should
Right.
win if you go
Right.
down that line of thinking. But I mean, yeah, I'm with you. By the way, I wanted to say I would have loved to have gone to this game. I mean, my wife is really into British history. She'd love to see some of those sites over there. And I threw it out to her when the game was announced. We just couldn't swing it right now. But it would have been fun to go. That stadium is beautiful. I would love to see it in person. I'm not a huge European football fan, but when I do watch Premier League, it's Tottenham is my team.
Oh,
and so
okay.
that would be another reason to go over there. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be a good contingent of Bears fans. We always travel well, and this is a good chance to go to a really awesome vacation spot where you spend the whole week there. And I feel like London's one of those places that's on a lot of people's bucket lists to visit here in the States. So that would have been fun. We'll be here watching it early, 8:30 a.m. in the Central Time Zone. At least I'm going to be pouring a Guinness at 8:30 a.m. I got to do it. I'm gonna have to restock. I'm pouring one at 8:30 for this game. This is my last one, my year-old Guinness, but I'll be getting some fresh stock over the next couple of days. I wanted to talk about. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I hear Guinness is amazing over in Europe on draft.
It's supposedly much, much better than what we get in the cans. I've always heard that too.
Yeah.
I am very concerned about the rush defense as well. I think we talked about that on the show here last week. And I mean, the game this past week against the Panthers did nothing to ease my nerves on that because Chuba Hubbard with 97 yards, that 38-yard run. It seems like every game there's been a really long rush or two. Like almost in the moment it feels backbreaking, like really again, usually in the first half, and then they kind of settle in the second half. But yeah, the Bears rush defense, this is concerning because as you said, the Jags have some dudes who can go, and if they get that rush game going, you get the play action with Trevor, who looked good last week, which again against the Colts, that's who Caleb had the 360 plus yards against. And we saw Trevor Lawrence have his biggest, I think that was his biggest yardage game this year, wasn't it?
Of his career, 370 something.
Of his career, yeah. There you go. So he's gonna have some confidence coming off of that too. Tank he averaged 7.8 yards a carry. He's 8 yards a carry on the season. He's had some big runs. Now, of course, he had that 65-yard run last week, so that brought that average up quite a bit. But he looks good, and ETN has been good for a while. So yeah, that's concerning. I think that's the biggest key to the game is finally handling the rushing attack and being able to shut that down. Because I mean, even with the injury to Brisker, I still got a lot of confidence in our defense to shut down the passing game.
Oh, for sure.
How do you feel? Let's get to that. How do you feel about Hicks? Because I think most of us thought it was going to be Jonathan Owens. I was actually stunned that it wasn't him.
Yeah, no, I was shocked as well, and I'm a little nervous, honestly. I was on a Making Monsters pod with Taylor before the season, and my favorite acquisition was Jonathan Owens, largely because Brisker is an injury concern. He's got durability. He's had durability issues his whole career thus far, based on his style of play. And Owens is a vet. He's a seasoned vet that has performed in this league, and he's gotten it done before. I think what he brings to the table is a heady veteran that can tackle, and so I was stunned as well. And I commented on one of Mason's posts on Twitter today regarding this exact topic, and I think it's obviously a little bit deeper than we are aware. The coaches know these players and what they're aware of and capable of more than we do. And Hicks has been with the team. This is his third year now, and so he's been with this regime the whole time. He knows the defense, and that's I gotta imagine that's what they're going off of. This guy knows the defense well. Granted, I think he looked much improved. Hicks did in the preseason. It's just preseason, but he still looked more sound. He was a stabilizing presence when the backups were in, sound tackler and whatnot. So I'm with you. I'm still not worried about our pass defense. I think maybe our run defense does suffer a little bit without Brisker, but if we're worried about our safeties getting the tackles, then we've got bigger problems, obviously. But yeah, I was shocked, and I still think, especially you got Simone Biles. She's an international legend, and Owens after Hard Knocks getting the start in London. I was going to come on here and say he's going to get a pick six in this game, but now he's not even starting, so I don't know if he's going to play. But I know
maybe if we would have caught that interception last week, he'd be playing.
I was gonna say, yeah. I wonder if that. I don't think it did, but he's leaned upon heavily in special teams. He's the personal protector on punt team. He's right there on punt return and kickoff. He is a leader in special teams, and maybe they didn't want to overwhelm him and take that away from. I don't know, but let's hope Hicks can get it done back there.
Yeah. Of course, got that touchdown on special teams in week 1, which was a big moment as well. I mean, I think if Hicks isn't performing, they'll be quick to put him in. I mean, this is a guy, Owens, who started a lot of games in his career. He started 2 playoff games last year with the Packers. So, he's got a lot of playing time. But that said, it makes sense with Hicks and his experience in the system with the team as well. So I think most people just thought it was going to be Owens, just given how many games he started in this league, but they went the other direction. Hopefully it will work out for him. We do have a chat here from the Facebook stream that I wanted to get to here real quick. So William, thanks for giving us your thoughts on the game. He says, if the Bears offensive line plays anything nearly as well as they did against Carolina, then sack watch could be another short one. Of course, Lester's column on the site. The run defense was only weak during the first drive, and 38 yards came on one Chuba Hubbard scamper. Then they did pretty good. The Jags shouldn't get any breakout runs. I say they will be hard to score against again. Bears 43, Jaguars 10 if they're lucky. Trevor Lawrence, LOL. Bear down. If the Bears win this game by 33 points, I will have 3 Guinnesses in before lunchtime, Brian. I will be celebrating hard.
I might be right there with you.
That would be great. I would love a no drama game like that with the Bears dominate. I mean, he's right. Like we said, that a lot of those big runs have come in the first half, and then they've kind of settled in. But overall, if you look at defensive rankings, Bears are like bottom half of the league, I believe, in yards allowed per game. They're 120.8 yards a game and the run defense. The Jags run defense is better. They're ranked in the top 10 right now, but passing is another story. This Jaguars secondary, Brian, is not good right now. They are giving up the most passing yards per game, 287.8, most passing yards per game in the NFL right now. And we saw in their game, the win over the Colts last week, the Colts lost, but man, Joe Flacco, he was out there slinging it. He was slicing them apart, especially in the first half. 359 yards passing, had a quarterback rating of 121, 3 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. I'm kind of with you on what you said about Rome. I feel like this could be the Rome Odunze breakout game where he has a huge game. I mean, I could also see DJ going off again, but I think one of those two is going to have a monster game. I think Caleb's going to throw the rock all over the field. I think we'll get the run game going in, or they're going to try to. But honestly, I just want to see Caleb Williams slice and dice him in this game. I mean, this secondary is very weak for Jacksonville.
Yeah. No, I think we can, and I think we will do that when we need to. And I don't know that the Jaguars have enough firepower, but they could absolutely control the clock with that run game, and that's what they should do. I mean, Chuba only had 13 carries last week. And granted they were down a bunch, but you take that 38-yard run away, he's still averaging 5 yards a pop on 12 carries without that run. So he was more than enough effective against us, and ETN is more explosive. Bigsby is playing just as well. So if they can establish that run again, you got a Heisman Trophy winner. I think Trevor Lawrence won the Heisman at one point his junior year. If not national champion, number 1 overall pick. He's got that pedigree. He's got weapons on the outside. They could, and that'd be fun for fans in London to see a shootout. because I think we could put up points and hopefully we hold them back. But I think if they can establish that run, then all bets are off. That's how you open up a defense. But yeah, I think Rome and Brian Thomas Jr. could have big games this week. Hopefully Rome's is better.
Let's hope so. We're gonna hope so. That's for sure. So, yeah, I mean that's I think keys of the game. Then let's get the passing game going. Let's continue to have some success with the running game, but on the defensive side, we got to shut down the run. I think to have a good shot of nailing this game down early, at least, and not getting into a shootout. Because if they get the run game going, and then they have that threat, and then we're trying to play the pass as well, it could open up things a little bit, and things could get a little dicey. I think some people are kind of overlooking this game because the Jags have looked, at least on the record, they've looked bad. But as you said earlier, they had these one-score games, and they can certainly pull it off. It's their secondary hometown, as you said, Bryan. And I don't know that I'm glad that the Bears have their bye week next, because this would kind of scream like a classic game where you're kind of overlooking the opponent with maybe a bigger game next week. And we do have a really big game coming out of the bye, but we got the bye next week. So I don't think that they're taking them lightly. I think they've been laser focused on this game, just getting over to London so early, which was a good move again. And I'm going to pick the Bears to win, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be 7 points or under, I would say. What do you think?
Another one score for the Jags. That'd be tough. I think we need to protect Caleb. I think the Jaguars are hungry. Trevon Walker, he has some newfound confidence. He's the number 1 overall pick. A lot of expectations on his shoulders, and that young man. And to come off a 3-sack game in their first win, he's got to feel like $1 million right now. And being over in London, I'm concerned about their D line. If they can establish the run on offense, we talked about that ad nauseum tonight, and they can then use the pass as well, we're going to have to pass the ball. We already talked about their run defense is more stout than ours. And if Caleb doesn't have time to pass, it doesn't matter how bad their DBs are, because we're not going to get the ball to him. We won't have time. So we'll need some more Houdini acts from Caleb to maybe stay afloat, stay alive back there. But I would say keys for me would be protect Caleb. It might come down to a shootout. If it doesn't, we need to take advantage of their pass defense. And in order for us to do that, we need to give him time in the pocket or outside the pocket. Just give him time, protect him. And the Jaguars got some blue chip edges and some underrated interior defensive linemen. So again, man, comes down to the trenches for us. Wouldn't it be nice to not have to worry about that one year?
Give us one more off season, right? Already seeing those predictions out there on the targets, and we could get at least one of those dudes and then have a strong draft. Maybe we'll have it settled in. But I mean, how awesome was it last week just to see Caleb having time to throw the ball? Yeah. I mean, it looked so easy for him as he went through his progressions, and he could actually not have to do the Houdini act, like you said, the whole game. And he could actually kind of stand back there flat-footed for a second. And it was, imagine if he had that every play.
Right. And yeah, I mean, you could see his skill set just shine brightly, with being able to manipulate defenders with his eyes.
Yes.
And then go through those progressions and find the open receiver. I mean, that no look pass to DJ, the deep post to D. I guess it wasn't even a post; it was just more like a seam to DJ. He's looking guys off, and he's making his progressions. And you give him time. And that was, it's funny how we're talking about this now, because one of his criticisms, not by us, but others, was he can't play in structure, right? Remember that narrative? And he's just used to, getting pressured his whole career in college. So he always had to play out of structure, but he absolutely can do that. And yeah, it's something that we're not quite used to as Bears fans, being able to I mean, we're thinking about a rookie making those sort of throws. Gosh, man, it's pretty neat. It's pretty fun. And like we talked about, open the show, his progression each week has been fun. And obviously this is a big week for that as well with the DBs there and the linebackers that are hurt. But again, we got to keep them clean.
Yeah. Let's look at this upcoming schedule. Let me get your thoughts on what's coming up for the Bears. So hopefully, they get this win here against Jacksonville. And then as we talked about, they go into the bye. They could be sitting at 4-2. We know the NFC North right now, the one division in football where everyone has a winning record. Minnesota looking better than any of us could have ever predicted.
Yes.
And then you
for
still
sure.
got Detroit and Green Bay there. I mean, and we haven't even hit any division games yet. And this is our, fourth AFC game already? It's such a weird schedule this year.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
very strange.
It
But
is.
on the positive side, Bears are undefeated in the NFC, 2-0 conference record. So things are starting off well there. But, you come out of this bye, and we're looking at that big game against Washington, which everybody's going to be talking about just because of the year Jaden Daniels is already having, and now Caleb's kind of coming on. So that's going to be a heck of a media circus for that game. And then then we go to Arizona, and they've lost some games, but they've got firepower obviously on offense. That could be a tough game. And then we get New England. Hopefully Bears can pull that one off. And then we're going into Green Bay at home against Green Bay, November 17th. So, I mean, as you look ahead and you hear those games, Bryan, where do you think the Bears are going to be record-wise going into that Green Bay game?
The first Green Bay game?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to be 7-2.
Oh, I hope so, man.
I'm really looking forward to playing the Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels is a heck of a player. They got Clint Kubiak in there because he can cater an offense, a palatable offense for a rookie with that skill set. But Kubiak has, his track record shows once you kind of get, number one, play better defenses. But once you get a handle on that offense, he doesn't know how to, overcome that. And I just don't trust that Daniels is going to stay healthy all year, but I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's doing really well for them. I don't think their defense can slow us down. And I think our DBs can slow Daniels down and our linebackers. The Cardinals, you talked about them. I think Kyler is a underrated quarterback in the league. Obviously you have Marvin Harrison Jr. You've got McBride, a couple good running backs, James Conner has that same it factor we talked about with Roschon and Montgomery. He's been doing it for a long time and done it at a high level. But I think we get that one. I mean, we're a better team. And if we prove we can beat teams we're supposed to beat again this weekend, I will have faith that we can beat Arizona and New England. So, and Washington, I guess you could say, is a toss-up, but I think that's another game we should win, just based on talent level of the teams there. But you could say if we lose that game, we'll be 6-2, but 6-3, but I think we'll be 7-2 going into Green Bay. I think we end up splitting the series with our rivals. They're just too good, but I don't see Caleb and this offensive line crumbling or failing to meet the expectations of those games twice. I just don't see that in Caleb or Waldron for that matter. He's been impressing me with that, but we'll see. I mean, with the way San Fran's been playing, that's a winnable game as well. So, it'll be tough. I'm eager to see Caleb, how he fares against Minnesota and Flores's defense. Hopefully next year we don't have to worry about Flores in Minnesota or what's Detroit's offensive coordinator's name again? I can't remember.
Johnson?
Yeah, Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
Ben Johnson. Hopefully they'll both be gone, head coaches elsewhere, and those units can take a step back because those guys are coaching lights out right now, and that's hurting us. LaFleur is not going anywhere, unfortunately, but I'm not afraid of Jordan Love either.
Same, yeah. Now I don't want to be confident picking the Bears against Green Bay. I've said this on the show before that until they start beating the Packers again, I'm not going to predict it, but splitting with them would be nice this year. And I think even in our worst years, it seems like almost always they play the Packers close. They just always lose. And right. I just think having a guy with the moxie back there like Caleb Williams and what this offense could be doing by that point in time, coming off some wins, hopefully a string of wins, a big winning streak like you were forecasting there, that they're going to have a lot of confidence going into that game. And it's at home the first time they play Green Bay. And if you can imagine us playing Green Bay at home, Caleb Williams first time against the Packers, and the Bears sitting at 7-2, man, I mean, that's going to feel nice. And if they can pull off that win and finally get that monkey off their back, and Caleb starts 1-0 against Green Bay, city's going to be on fire, man.
Yeah.
8-2 coming off a win against Green Bay.
I agree. I think it would be amazing. I don't think it'll happen. I think we would lose that first one. I think we would win the second one to close the season. I mean, how cool would that be too? With playoff implications on both teams.
Yeah.
And for Caleb to go in Green Bay, first game at Lambeau, having been humbled after a win streak, because one of the things about Green Bay that doesn't get talked about quite as much, excuse me, is the coaching. They just always seem to outcoach us every single time. And, I would not be surprised if they do that the first go around, and then we come ready to play, more seasoned and prepared on week 18. But we'll see. I mean, again, it comes down to winning the games we're supposed to win. And there's another one this weekend, and I'm hoping that we can take care of business. Sometimes these third-party locations can be tricky for folks for games. But if we win that game, like you said, going in the bye, having the bye to recuperate, give Caleb some more time to get his body fresh, get his mind right. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a sweet showdown against Jaden Daniels as well. So it's going to be a fun year, man. Look forward to more of these. I can't remember exactly which is my next episode with you. I think it might be late November, but it might be.
Well, I happen to have the schedule in front of me right now, so I can tell you. Okay, we've got so next Wednesday, it looks like it's Kyrie and Jacob. And then we don't have a show scheduled after that because we'll be coming off the bye. But then we've got, let's see, me and Jacob after that. Yeah, the next time you and I will be December 11th. So we will be coming off the San Francisco game.
Okay. Well, I'll probably drink this porter by then, so I'll have something else that time. But appreciate you having me, man. It was a blast. It did go fast. Yeah. You were right.
Yeah, man. Hour flies by. Appreciate all of you that tuned in live or on demand. So whether you're watching us right now or after the fact, it helps us either way. Please give us a thumbs up, like this video here on YouTube. As I said at the top of the show, subscribe to the channel on your podcast feed. Check out all the other Second City Gridiron shows. Great stuff from all the content creators from WindyCityGridiron.com. And we will be back with Bears Over Beers next Wednesday, hopefully coming off another big win and make it 3 in a row for your Chicago Bears. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a fun one, guys. Enjoy the game this weekend. Follow Bryan on Twitter. You can follow myself on Twitter. The links are here in the video description. We'll be talking to you all again real soon. Have a great weekend. Go Bears.